some investigators in some well-known haunted places have used a black-white noise box along an EVV recorder. Bringing in specialists who have expertise in this field to ask questions of the spirits. Have you had any experience with that, or do you think it's a bunch of bunk?
Well, it sounds like you're kind of talking about two different devices. The white noise is often, it was actually used and started mainly in the 70s and 80s when audio gear was still analog. And what they discovered was, and I don't know that I necessarily agree with it or buy into it, but what they thought back in those days was that the voice sort of needed a conveyance of sorts in order to enunciate words and things. So they would provide white noise, and then I guess the theory was that the ghost could manipulate that noise to form words and things of that sort. When the mainstream community kind of went digital, most digital recorders have sort of they used to say the Sony IC recorders had a built-in white noise. So the white noise sort of went out the window because they're like, well, it's got its own built-in noise, so the ghost can use that. So I don't know that white noise ever was really necessary. To me, it just muddies up the audio. I mean, if I'm listening to 8 hours of audio, I would just rather listen for voices than hear constant, you know. So no, we don't really use white noise, but since we are all digital, most people that use all digital don't use white noise. So we're kind of in line with that community in that regard, but not necessarily with having to buy into the theory. The black box a lot of times are what people call ghost boxes or black boxes or Radio Shack hacks and things like that, are complete nonsense to us. The idea that you can go to Radio Shack, buy a $30 radio, and somehow tune in the dead talking around you is ridiculous to me. That's right up there with every bit of bunk that ever went on in the spiritualism days. You know, that Houdini would go around and take such joy in exposing. Well, it's the sort of same with a black box. To me, if you want to impress me with a Radio Shack hack, then let's go somewhere where there's no radio signals, meaning you could scan the entire spectrum of the AM band and you've got no radio stations coming in, nothing but noise. And then you start pulling out real answers to questions where there's not bits of phonetics and people are trying to piece words together, you know, because sometimes all you hear is and it just said hello, how you doing, you know, and half the time it's just unintelligible nonsense, or it's a radio station. You know, you have investigators doing these things in like Philadelphia, who has like 400 local radio stations. So I'm quite sure the voices you're hearing are DJs, you know, in songs. You know, if like we were talking earlier, if you pull in a bit of Purple Haze on one of those stations, do you think Jimi Hendrix is haunting the location? We've got Jimi Hendrix here. No. So no, we don't do the Radio Shack hack, ghost bosses, all those kind of things. And again, it's less about calling it hokey or anything, and more about we don't think of that as evidence, proof that something is going on.
One more question. What kind of photographs taken are deemed to be proof of an entity presence, or do you prefer to have just video?
Oh, we take what we can get. Sometimes it's video, usually it's audio, and on occasion it's photographs. Well, again, it's reasonable. It's reasonable. How did you get the photograph, first off? I mean, did you take it with a digital camera, Polaroid? Some types of cameras lend themselves to more manipulation than others. If you have a 35 millimeter photograph and you have the negative to boot, that's pretty compelling because it's on the negative, so it's probably not something that was manipulated in post-production. They may have had a real person there pretending to be a ghost, but what if that person is halfway transparent and missing the lower half of their body, you know? So it's pretty compelling. Polaroids are instant, you know, there is no post-manipulation. What you've got on the photo in front of you is what you've got. But we don't use those things typically. We use, you know, digital photos, and to me, you have to do, if you want your items to be regarded as authentic, first of all, you should shoot in a format that's can be recognized as an original format, such as RAW format. You know, if someone says this is the RAW photo, you can actually look in Photoshop or another photograph manipulation software and say, nope, that's the real photo that came out of the camera. It hasn't been photoshopped. There's no layers on it. and that sort of thing.
I saw that.
Let's make sure when the booger man coming up behind me. Do we need to start that question over?
I can't remember. What was the question?
Photographs.
Photographs.
No, I think we actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
the short version answer is, you know, the more uncorruptible the format, the more that the community's going to buy that you haven't created that image yourself.
Oh.
So it's less about the content, orbs and mists excluded, and more about just the format that the photograph came in. Because, like I say, some things are manipulated very easily, some cannot be manipulated at all.
Okay. Thank you.